All right, let's do this. This is Web Radio, and 365 audio. And this is call out time. This is call out time. So what we're gonna do today, we're gonna have a call out on CHAEL Sonnen and the interim title belts. And right here, we're gonna talk about specifically about the heavyweight interim title belt that has crowned Cyril Gann as the new interim champion of the heavyweight division in the UFC. Very interesting, very interesting. Again, guys, the formula is still the same, right? First of all, the first thing is please subscribe. The more people we are, the more fun we're going to get, and the more interesting the discussion and the analysis are going to be. And yeah, we're gonna do that a cappella, like people say. We're gonna do it without a net impro, nothing that is really prepared here, except for the subject, right? And the call-out subject today is Charles Sonnen and the interim belts. So I like Chael. I really like Chael, and I like the way he speaks. He's outspoken, very interesting when he speaks. And but he was talking on one of his podcast, actually, this one as well. And there's many other, maybe three of them, where he was talking about the upcoming fight with Cyril Gann, right? And the interim belt. I think that most specifically the one that drew my attention was the one where he was talking about a comment that Ariel Alwani did, mentioning that actually, even if Cyril Gann was currently the interim champion, the fight that could actually happen will first would be the John Jones fight, and I think that Chael wasn't understanding why it would be that, because for him the interim belt gives the right to the next fight, and no fights can actually be before that. And we were also talking, he was also talking about the reason why and backing up the UFC as usual. And I'm saying as usual, Shell is on the side of the UFC, backing up the UFC for putting up that interim fight between Cyril Gann and Derek Lewis, because as he said, from what he says, Francis Ngannou couldn't fight in the time that the UFC wanted him to fight. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. So let's try to tackle that a little bit, right? So the first thing I'm going to say is that the interim title belt for me doesn't mean a lot. It doesn't make a lot of sense. That's basically it doesn't make a lot of sense. And after that, calling that we have to unify the belt makes even less sense, right? When we're talking about boxing associations and unifications of the titles, it definitely does make sense, because you have different organizations and they want to know which one of their champion is the real champion, basically, because you have the same weight class, different organizations, so you want to get together and decide who's going to win. To be honest with you, the way that I compare the interim belt in UFC is like maybe the diamond belt, or I don't know, any belt that is that really doesn't have to do with. The diamond belt, I think, is a good example, right? This type of belt. Because it doesn't really have the interim belt doesn't really have any meaning, right? Just to, I believe, in my opinion, just to put the actual champion in a certain context where he has to fight. Otherwise, or else, the interim champion is going to become the champion. But the undisputed champion in the UFC is the current champion, because there's only one organization, so they cannot be two champion. When you get an interim belt, is exactly the same thing as having what have you. Of having like a fight for the first contender, like Francis Ngannou said it correctly. It's like having a fight for the first contender of the fight. So it is what it is. And to be honest with you, I think that the BMF, the baddest motherfucking belt, has more meaning and more sense than the interim title belts. To be honest with you, right? So I don't know where Chael is coming from on this, right? And I believe also that a fight, Francis Ngannou, and I do understand Francis Ngannou as well. I mean, he's coming out of this fight against Stipe. He had to wait a long time to get this freaking fight against Stipe, right? And now after this fight against Stipe, he sees John Jones coming out of the woodwork, and asking, I don't know how many millions to fight him. Obviously, he himself is not that crazy. He sees the pot of gold as well, and he's interested in that fight. Not that much because it's John Jones, and obviously it makes a difference. I mean, it's John Jones anyway, and he's got that legacy that actually Francis can snatch as well by beating him. But especially he brings in a big purse, right? $10 million at least. It means that Francis must be at least 5 million, 6 million, 7 millions, right? If not more as well. So after that, you want to give him a fight against Derrick Lewis. You want to force him. You want to force him into a fight against Derrick Lewis. It's just what, like example, you're going to boxing, right? In boxing, let's say the guy who's the champion has to fight the first contender in within a year, right? And in that period, obviously he can decide to fight anybody else that he wants to fight. And even for the title, he can decide to fight like the fifth contender, the sixth, the seventh, the fourth contender if he wants, right? As long as he fights the freaking first contender during the year. Now, Chael Sonnen says that, Francis Ngannou says he was going to be active, and the UFC took him to his word, and I took him to his word. But we can see that it didn't happen, so and so forth. Was he scared of Derrick Lewis? I don't know. But at the end of the day, my first question would be, what is being active in the UFC? Does it mean having to fight 3 times a year? Does it mean having to fight twice a year? Does it mean having to fight once a year? We need to know what active does means, right? Because the UFC is a hard sport, except if you're not taking any damage like the run that Cyril Gane did, right? I don't know how many fighters he went through, like in 7 months, right? But other than that, I mean, the guy who's in the losing end gets pretty damaged, right? And even though, and when the fight is a pretty even fight, like both of them gets injured or not at all, like in the fight Derrick Lewis against, let's say, against Francis Ngannou, that same guy, right? So what does that mean, being active, right? That's the first thing that I want to know, right? Because I think that the heavyweight champion of the UFC should have at least a year, right, to be able to defend his title. And in between, he can do whatever he wants, right? And I understand Francis Ngannou, when he wants to wait to see where the negotiations are going to go with John Jones. It makes total sense. I mean, look at it this way. The UFC has no heart. I mean, they owe business, right? And what just happened shows it as well. They mean business. They want to make their organization work, make money, be profitable, and all, right? So we have to look. Let's look at the Tony Ferguson and um, Khabib, and the Khabib situation, right? When Tony Ferguson was supposed to fight Khabib for the UFC gold, right? And what happened? Tony Ferguson took a fight against Justin Gaethje. In that fight, he got smashed. And what did happen? Did the UFC said, "Oh, okay. First of all, since you were supposed to fight Khabib, okay, we're gonna make you fight Khabib anyway because you deserve to fight him. You know what? You kept our card alive. We're gonna reward you, and you're gonna fight Khabib anyway, right? Even if you lost against Gaethje. That's the first thing that they should have done. The second thing is if they wouldn't have done that, the second thing they could have at least have done is have a rematch, right? He set up a rematch, uh, Justin Gaethje against Tony Ferguson, and give him a chance, right, to basically to get back on track and to avenge his defeat and maybe be ready to fight against Khabib again, or maybe a trilogy. I don't know, but they should have given him the chance to redeem himself and to be in line to fight Khabib, right? But no, what they did basically is that heartless. They went on and took the winner of that fight, Gaethje and Tony Ferguson, and have Gaethje fight against Khabib. To be honest with you, once again, I think that a fight Tony Ferguson Khabib would have been better than the fight Justin Gaethje against Khabib. To be honest, right? And that shows why people have to be careful when and especially when they see something like that. I mean, Francis Ngannou wants to fight John Jones. He wants to have that big purse. I mean, the UFC is known for being very stingy in terms of payout for fighters, and I think that Jake Paul, for a name that we love to hear, has mentioned it already, and other athletes are mentioning it, are starting to talk out on it as well. So I just think that this is totally makes sense. This is something that should happen, right? That could happen. Is it something that is going to happen? I don't know. But all I know is that that interim title belt, to be honest with you, is more something to put like the champion in a headlock and to force him into a situation that not that he's eluding, but like Francis Ngannou, when he wants to have a certain date when to fight, to kind of force him to do something else. I mean, there's fights that have been canceled, on the cards. So even if Dana had planned a heavyweight championship belt, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And again, like I said, I would like to see the rules. I would like to see the rules pertaining to the interim belt. What I've just found, I just typed in something on Google. I mean, if an undisputed UFC champ can't defend the title for some reason, the UFC will create the interim belt, right? The reigning champ will keep the title, but the division will have the second interim champ, the interim the second interim champ. What is the second interim champ anyway? The interim and the reigning champ must fight each other, and the winner will become the undisputed champion. But this is ridiculous because it says at the same time that the champion remains the champion, so he is the undisputed champion. The interim belt is just like I don't know, a plastic medal or something, like those little cup policeman sign that you buy in a dollar store or something. This is worse. This is totally worthless. But it's not. It's worthless in terms of meaning. But for the UFC, he has a great meaning because it forces the champion into a situation where he has to fight, or else, right? This is it. Now, I so it is what it is. I don't know what they put that interim belt in any case. And also the situation is that where does Stipe fit in all this, right? Where does Stipe fit in all this? Shouldn't Stipe at least has at least the chance to fight, example, Derek Lewis, for a chance to get his rematch against Ngannou. And like people are saying as well, I mean, Ngannou should have had the chance. Stipe should have had the chance for a rematch with Ngannou. After all, they won one, and we know that Stipe in revenge and rematches is very very good, right? So I don't know what situation it is. Is it that the UFC first of all doesn't like Stipe as a champion, so for sure no rematch for him, and it's starting not to like Ngannou, so Ngannou has to fight, and especially has to fight Cyril Gane, and the UFC does believe that Cyril Gane is going to beat Ngannou for sure, and Cyril Gane is the type of champion that the UFC would like, the type of fighter that the UFC would like, because he's been very active, right? He's been very active, and he seems to have a style that can defeat Francis Ngannou, and that's what they expect is going to happen. So, I mean, this is chess. This is chess, not checkers. This is chess, right? And they're playing chess and they're playing good. Nobody can tell me that that whole situation wasn't planned. Good planning for the UFC, because now, I mean, the fight is going to be an amazing fight, and I think that the John Jones fight would have been an amazing fight as well, and would be an amazing fight as well. That's going to interest a lot of people. Between you and me, to be honest, even if I don't care about the interim title belt, and I think that that fight against Derek Lewis and Cyril Gane was just for the first container, I do think that I prefer to watch the fight Cyril Gane against Francis Ngannou, because I really don't know. Both fighters basically have the potential to win. I mean, it's almost a 50-50 one. So yeah, so it's a good play, and it's going to generate a lot of cash, especially if it's done in France, from where the two fighters originate. It's going to be totally crazy. It's going to be totally crazy. So I'm not going to deviate from the subject. So yeah, the interim title belt doesn't worth nothing, and it's just absurd that CHAEL Sonnen backs it up, because it really doesn't make sense. Because at the end of the day, when you think about it, the interim title belt, what does happen? Is there a rule that says when the champion has to fight the guy who holds the interim title belt? That's the first question that I'm going to ask. And the second question that I'm going to ask, like right now, Cyril Gane is saying that he needs a little bit of time because he's been fighting nonstop for 7 months, right? Going through all these tough guys from the heavyweight division. And now he says he needs a little bit more time, a little time to rest, right? So this brings the question: what happened if the interim champion doesn't want to fight? So are you going to create another interim belt to force those two to fight? What's going to happen? We don't know what's going to happen. So I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, put some rules on, and put some rules where like your undisputed champion has to fight in within a year, right? Some other rules that says that okay. Yeah, that has to fight within a year. That's it. And if you want an interim belt, put some rules that says that if the guy doesn't or be very cold and says that is in within a year the champion has not fought, he's going to be stripped of his belt. That's it, and that's all. And they're going to be a fight for the vacant championship. That's clean cut, right? That's clean cut. This is not something like that undisputed, that interim stuff that doesn't really make any sense. Because why doesn't it make any sense? Because it just doesn't make any sense. You got one organization, interim belt doesn't mean nothing to me, right? It doesn't mean nothing. So give the champion a due time where he has to fight. If he doesn't fight in that time, then you strip him out. And if he's injured, then these rules still apply depending. I mean, you can make some amendments, and based on doctor opinions and all that stuff, to maybe extend that 1 year period to the period where the doctor said he was going to be back in shape, right? Up to a certain number of months after the deadline. That would make sense. Not that, okay, the UFC says, okay, I'm proposing you that day, July, I'm proposing you June, I'm proposing. Why do you have to follow? I mean, you're your own boss. And I don't know if the UFC in their contract, I mean, somebody has to tell me because I'm not the little bird in the office of the UFC. Somebody has to tell me if when the UFC gives a contract, if they force people to how many fight they force people to have in a year, or what if they actually force people to have a fight in a year, and if they do, how many fight do they force people to have? I don't know that, right? So basically, they have to they just have to make some rules, man. I mean, this is a mature organization, and that interim stuff and all this contractual stuff just don't make any sense, especially when Sonnen says that the UFC is organized. To me, having that undisputed interim belt, and fighting for, like scrambling to have fighters fight for this month, or that doesn't make any sense, and looks pretty unorganized to me, right? Regardless of what CHAEL would say. And again, I love CHAEL. I love CHAEL Sonnen. I love his person. I think he's very colorful, interesting. But I just think that he's a little bit like some other guys, like Daniel Cormier, the mouthpiece of the UFC. These guys are mouthpiece of the UFC. You'll never hear them say something wrong about the UFC. They always follow the wave. So where the UFC wind blow, that's where they go. And this is said without any malice or hatred. Like I said, I love Daniel Cormier as well, right? But Charleston and Daniel Cormier, for me, when I listen to them on TV, it's like I'm listening to a fighter versions of Dana White. Doesn't there's no difference to that. So interim belt, amigo, doesn't make sense. Interim belt doesn't make sense. Serial Gan, Francis Ngannou makes perfect sense. Don't have to have an interim belt to me, right? So this is my call out today, Sonnen, and let's see what's gonna come up. And again, guys, let's hope we're gonna have this fight. The first fight that I hope we're gonna have is Cyril Gane, Francis Ngannou, and the second one, if we don't have this one, would be obviously John Jones, Francis Ngannou. And to believe you me, nobody's a loser in there. Nobody's a loser in there, right? So, and please understand why some people, some fighters, sometimes are reluctant to do certain things. The UFC, by all means, is not a kid, he's not a child, and they're very ruthless businessmen, in my opinion, right? So, if you face a ruthless businessman, in order not to get eaten by those sharks, you have to you have to fight your way. You have to be a shark as well. You have to be ruthless as well in business, and that's the lesson learned also from different previous fight, like I was saying, like the Tony Ferguson fight, when he fought Gaji, and he lost his opportunity to fight Khabib. So yeah, I mean, these are things that you have to you have to think about. I mean, if Francis would have lost, example, he would have lost against Derrick Lewis, which is maybe unlikely, but we never know. I mean, this is the UFC. One punch can make a story. So what I mean is that he never would have fought John Jones, and he would have never get a chance. And actually, even if he would have fought John Jones, I mean, the purse would have been a lot less, right? And the interest would have been a lot less. So it is what it is. And that's where we are now. But we have to understand both sides, not only one side, right? So this is my call out today. Yeah, the interim title belt. No meaning. Come on, Chell. See you guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell me what you think about this, right? Subscribe, comment, right? Always in respect, but you can say anything that you, any opinion is accepted, except, like I said, in all due respect. Yeah, like I respect Chill and Cormier, right? But and I really do. This is not a joke. Right? So subscribe and yeah, comment. Let me know what you think about that interim